Can your engine really make your game cross-platform? Yes and no. Let's see why. So first of all, that's the reason why engine like Unity, Unreal, and so on, they are very popular. This because, as you know, they can develop games and export for many different platforms, and therefore it makes the life much easier. And because you can aim to different target platforms, so this is very, the topics I'm not going to explain too much long. So, but just to sum up, is very give an easy life because you learn only one software, and then you can go with that software and develop many platforms. But the problem is that when we talk about cross-platform, you want to use the same game that you created and then release in different devices. That could be a problem because yes, you can export because they just click a button and then it's done. But really, you can just put this game in any platform because there are some kind of issue. So basically, you need to transform this game and adapt it to that platform. Therefore, it's not very straightforward process. And let's see why. First of all, let's consider, for example, your game that is developed for PC, and now you want to release it for mobile. Yes, good. A good idea, but it's not going to work straightforward. Depend on the game you are creating. This because, first of all, the mobile has much stretched screen usually compared to computer, and therefore when you have this size of the screen, if you want to put the whole game inside the screen and then keep the same proportions like in the computer, you need to add like a black bars on the side because you need to try to adjust to fit everything in that small area. And therefore the player will feel like, why there is this black lines here, and then the developer doesn't want to use this space. Already the space is so small, you make it even smaller, adding black bar, and the player will feel a little bit weird. On the other side, you can extend the screen to the edges of the mobile, but therefore you will have cut out the top and the bottom of your screen if you keep center, for example, and still the player will miss some of the action that is happening on the top and bottom that normally they're able to see on the screen of the computer, but they can't see on the mobile. Therefore, they have to do some adaptation, but also you want so that you have to decide to zoom in or zoom out for the screen. You need to change the size of the text because it becomes too small for the screen of the mobile, and so on. So there is a lot of adaptation just for the screen. But the screen is not the only problem you might face because we also have a second problem that is due to the power of the machine, that is either processing power, the RAM or graphic card, and so on. So the computer, especially the gaming computer, has much more power usually than consoles and especially on mobile or tablet. Therefore, you can expect the game that is run at 60 frames per second on the powerful computer will still run in the same way on consoles or mobile, because the power they have this machine, the devices are much different, so usually much lower. So if your game is really demanding in terms of power, it will not be able to give the same performance also on the game for different devices, not only for the screen, as I said before, but also as a frame rate, for example. And then another problem is that the different input, because on PC normally mainly we have as input a keyboard and mouse. Yes, you can have some player that use the gamepad, but basically you always have at least the keyboard and the mouse. While on the consoles, the basic input is the controller. Yes, you can in some console have a gamepad, sorry, the keyboard and mouse, but the main focus is the controller. And mobile, once again, we have a different input that is the touch, and yes, you can have some devices to connect to the mobile, but most of the people just play with the touch. Therefore, if your game is working well with a combination of keyboard and mouse, it will not work in the same way with the gamepad, or even worse with the touch. So you need to redesign all the input for the player. So for example, one of my first games, actually my first game that I really spent a lot of time developing, is the Outermost Bastion. In that game, originally my idea was to make a game for mobile where you have the tower at the center of the screen, and then you shoot arrows to all the enemies that are approaching from the edges of the screen, moving towards the tower. So yeah, my idea was to create this game, and I started to create the game first on PC and test on the PC. So I want to create at the same time a PC version. So I start to focus on the PC version because it's much easier to test and so on. And then I have this nice feature where I was able to size the obstacles, like trees, in different size, and then the player could shoot between the trees, the arrow, and hit someone that is beyond the trees before they reach in a line of sight, let's say. So you can have this attack from distance. You take advantage about the space and you can shoot through. Yes, that's good. You can do well with a mouse, because even if there are small pixels at distance between the two obstacles, with the mouse you can easily point in that exact point. But if you think about this on a mobile, especially if some player you think they have a big finger, when you touch with the finger, you really don't see where you're touching exactly, and it's already the screen already much smaller than the computer. So that there is this difficulty where you don't know where to touch, and the thing is quite big compared to the exact 1 or 2 pixel space you can use, and then you cannot have the same result. So you might have some more chance to hit the trees rather than pass through, while on the computer is the other way around if you use a mobile. Then okay, this is one problem for mobile, but let's think about console. Because for example, this game, I proposed to some YouTuber to test the game for me if they wanted, and one of the YouTubers said to me, oh look, I could spend much more time in playing this game if you would support the controller. And I said, fine, I will add the controller, and add the controller. But with the controller, I cannot touch everywhere on the map. So the only way for me to use the controller is to point one direction and I shoot the arrow in that direction. So it's not where I click, but where I aiming to. And therefore, it was not so easy to aim in a specific point, because when you aim with the analog touch, basically you don't really see where you're shooting to. So I had a tracker from the tower to the edge of the screen, so you can always see the direction where you're shooting, and that's the way it worked. But the result is not the same, because when you use the mouse, you can easily go from one point to another moving quickly. You don't have any more precise shot, because you can just pinpoint the point where you want to shoot. You click and it's going exactly there. While with a gamepad, you have to move this line and then try to adjust the shot. So it's not so precise immediate like with the mouse. And therefore, when I test the game by myself, but also I let people test my game both on with a keyboard, a mouse, and also with a gamepad. Even if they are gamers that normally they use a gamepad to play, they still play better using the mouse rather than the gamepad. So that's you can see the different results. So you need to adjust the game, maybe the difficulty of the game, depending on the device where the game is going. So it's not only the size of the screen. It's not only the power, but also the gameplay. They need to be adjusted because the input is different, user interface and whatever. There is really a lot of things to do, but it's not finished here, because the game type can work well on some devices while another device doesn't work well. For example, let's say, but this is also related to the audience somehow. So not only for the physical the problem of the software or on the machine, but just the audience itself. Let's say, for example, puzzle games are more popular on mobile because it's just maybe some games that you can, or hyper casual games. Why? Yes, you can have the same game on console and PC, but they are not so popular, or the other way around. Maybe shooter or simulation like driving simulation, airplane simulation, whatever, they can work well on PC, especially because if they require a lot of input with the keyboard, you have a lot of buttons you can press. Think about the flight simulator. But when you're going to move this simulator on the console, or even worse on mobile, you totally have a different feeling. So yes, you can do it, but also the audience will not be there for that game, because someone that likes a simulator game will not play it on, if someone play like a flight simulator, will not play it on mobile because performance are worse, input, you have a very limited input and so on. And therefore, there will be no audience for that game, even if you manage to release it. So your effort is just a waste of energy and time and money, of course, to do this cross-platform game that actually works only for PC, for example. So it's better if you just aim at the beginning the platform you want to develop the game. This before you start to develop the game. When you're still brainstorming or your game idea, you have to think ahead where you're going to release the game, and not just say, okay, this game has been a success on PC, now I'm going to do release this game on mobile because I need to click one button, it's done. It's not in this way. Also, you have other issues, like for example, this is related maybe for the device and then the supplier. For example, multiplayer game, where you have maybe on PC you can manage to have a multiplayer where you have 32 players. On console, maybe, I don't know, Nintendo or Sony or whatever, they can support only lobbies with 24 players or even less. And on mobile, maybe even less because not enough power. So you have also this idea where you want to play, maybe have a cross-platform multiplayer where a user from PC user want to play with someone that has a Xbox, but there is this limit of maximum number of players, because maybe with PC you have a higher number, so therefore, or you have to reduce the number of players for the side of the powerful machine, let's say PC, to adjust to the other devices. So at the same level, let's say 24 for console, 24 for PC. So no more 36 or 32 for PC. But then you miss the experience that you might have on PC to have a multiplayer with many more players compared to the one that can be on console or mobile. So there is a lot of things that you need to think about at the beginning of the game. So I hope this information was useful for you. For sure, there are more other things to consider, but these I think are the main ones. I take the chance to thank you again, everyone that supports my Patreon. If you would like to add something to this, please use the comment section and just write whatever is your idea about this, or if you have experience about developing cross-platform games. And then I see you again next week. Thank you. Bye.